All right, good afternoon. My name is David Grinspoon. I'm a planetary scientist and astrobiologist, and I'm going to talk for just a couple of minutes about how observations beyond Earth are relevant to our study of UAPs. Many of NASA's missions are, at least in part, focused on answering the question of whether life exists beyond Earth. Astrobiology is the study of the origin, evolution, distribution, and future of life in the universe. As part of this, we consider how to search for biosignatures, observations we can make of other planets which might betray the presence of life. So we look for things like anomalous gases in the atmospheres of planets and other anomalies which may possibly reveal the presence of life. When we discover such an anomaly, we don't conclude that we've discovered life. We seek more data to understand what we're seeing, and often this leads to other new discoveries. Similarly, we can talk about looking for technosignatures, observations we can make which might reveal the presence of technological activity somewhere else. NASA is also supporting some research studying technosignatures. While there is at present no evidence we're aware of suggesting an extraterrestrial source for UAPs, these existing NASA programs are relevant to the question of UAPs in at least two ways. Is it a known or unknown natural phenomena? Must it be technological? Is it known terrestrial technology? So these scientific communities have relevant experience in determining and communicating about whether observations which first appear to reveal extraordinary evidence actually justify making extraordinary claims. Second, if we do acknowledge an extraterrestrial source, however unlikely, as one possibility for UAPs, then these objects must have traveled through the solar system to get here. Within the scientific community, there's a widespread, but by no means universal belief that there are extraterrestrial civilizations. And we have a well-developed rationale. There's a lot of literature for discussing this, which I won't go into now in the interest of brevity, but it has to do with the vast numbers of exoplanets and the timescales of evolution and the possibility of convergent evolution on different planets leading to somewhat similar outcomes. And it's a fascinating subject, but the relevant point here is that the same rationale which supports the idea that extraterrestrial civilizations may exist and may be detectable also supports the idea that finding extraterrestrial artifacts in our own solar system is at least plausible. NASA is the lead agency for solar system exploration. It already has an active program of detecting objects in our solar neighborhood using both ground-based and space-based facilities, and it could leverage those capabilities to search for objects in space with anomalous motion, anomalous trajectories, unusual light curves, anomalous spectral signatures, or other characteristics. Most of the solar system has not been searched for artifacts or anomalies, and these modest data analysis efforts could potentially be applied to existing and planned planetary missions. The galaxy does not stop at the edge of the solar system, and the solar system does not stop at the top of the Earth's atmosphere. It's all a continuum of possibilities worthy of investigation. If NASA applies the same rigorous methodology toward UAPs that it applies to the study of possible life elsewhere, then we stand to learn something new and interesting, whatever the ultimate explanation is of those phenomena. And that's all I wanted to say right now.
Well, we have time for one or two comments or questions or thoughts.
Yeah, thank you for that. You know, it struck me while you were speaking about biosignatures that we do a lot of that type of analysis, right, in our home planet in different capacities. And so it's more of a comment, but I wondered your thoughts on, you know, bringing together those communities that might not work together and whether that would aid in, you know, not only establishing what's normal, but enabling the detection or maybe the understanding explanation of a UAP if reported.
Absolutely. I mean, the focus of my talk was observations elsewhere, but in fact, most of what the field of astrobiology has to study is here on Earth, because after all, it's our one example of an inhabited planet, and it's a little bit easier to get to make observations. So yes, any insights you have in that area, or any suggestions for collaboration between those communities would be very valuable.
So, of course, NASA hasn't been researching the technosignature field for very long, and there's been a stigma with technosignatures for many decades. Are there any lessons learned we can impose from the technosignature in the SETI community to the UAP in solar system studies?
That's a really good question. I guess the immediate thought it sparks in me is that, technosignatures were kind of treated, kept at arm's length for a long time by NASA because of stigma, and ultimately can't be kept away forever. If you are an agency, curiosity driven, trying to understand the whole universe, you have to move beyond stigmas and just try to honestly look at whatever evidence there is. And so I think in that broad sense, the same lesson ought to apply to UAPs.
As someone who has been working in astrobiology and data sciences for some time now, it strikes me when both Dr. Bianco and you talked that the differences that seem to me between biosignatures and technosignatures fields and the UAP field, again, relies on the data. So biosignatures and technosignatures, they have very well standardized data sets. They have been collecting data sets for some time. And they are able to apply machine learning, artificial intelligence algorithms, while it's a totally different question with the UAPs in how we can apply artificial intelligence here. So again, just like Dr. Bianca, how she said, it's about data standardization. So I hope that the UAP field will learn how to work with the data from the biosignatures and technosignatures fields. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. The one point I push back on a little bit is whether technosignatures has a lot of data in that sense. The one part of technosignatures, which is looking for signals from radio and optical and that sort of thing that's been associated with SETI for a long time. You're right, there's a lot of data there that we've been collecting. But the term technosignatures is sort of newly being adopted, and it in a way, it reminds me of the distinction we heard from the FAA about a cooperative and non-cooperative. That with technosignatures, we're looking. There's more of an emphasis on finding technology that is not necessarily intended to signal us, but just sort of doing what technology does and finding ways to, so it's not looking for signals as much. And in that domain, we have not necessarily been collecting information for that long. But your point is well taken, that there are lessons learned from certainly the astrobiology and the sort of classical SETI field, where we've had a lot of data, and we could look at how that is analyzed and try to collect the data for UAPs that will be amenable to that same sort of analysis.
Great, thank you.